Hey, we're back with the Narcissist. I'm asking for a friend podcast. So my name is Tyler King. It's my co-host Karen Maldonado. And we have some things that we need to talk about. It is something I know our viewers want to hear about. What is the definition of really gaslighting? How do you know when you've been gaslit? And let's just start there. Let's just start there because some people hear it, but they may not actually know what it means.
Well, the gaslighting term, it actually came from a movie, and I think it's called The Gaslight. It's an old movie. That was about a narcissistic husband. He was lighting gas lanterns and
Yes.
and then putting them out. And there was also pictures hanging on the wall, and then he would switch them out, and then the wife would say something like, "Why is that picture there? What do you mean that picture's been there for years? What are you talking about?" Like
Wow.
little things to make her feel like she's going crazy. So it came
Mm.
from this old black and white movie, but it's true today that gaslighting is that type of
Mm.
dynamic where there's one that's trying to almost make the other one think that they're crazy. No, that's not the way that it happened. Like, it happened a certain way, and then they're
Right.
you no, and they'll look at you like you're crazy. No, are you kidding me? That's not what happened. Where'd you get that from? Or, like they'll continue to do that kind of thing. Or just a simple thing where maybe the day before you said to her or to him, we're going to be going to so and so's house tomorrow night, meaning the night that they're in, right? And
Right.
then that person comes back with the day of saying, "You never told me that. I'm not doing
Mm.
that." So, and then there's a big argument, but it's almost like they set you up for it because they knew all along that they weren't going to do it, but now they wanted the fight. And so
Right.
it's calculated.
Very calculated. Now, do you feel like they don't want to do it, but instead of saying in the moment they don't want to do it, they would rather wait for the big grand theatrical performance of kind of going through this argument and back and
Yes.
forth and
That's their supply.
accusations? Yeah.
That's
Ah.
what's called their supply. It's the fix. I want to fix. I want a great big argument. I want to be able to rage, and I want to be able to be
Yes.
heard really loud, and then I want there to be tears and upset, and then once I get that, I'll be good.
So here's the situation that I want to look at, how it changes your confidence. Because you can be in a relationship, and I know if I've felt that way, because I've been on the side of that, where you may not even feel like you're able to dream anymore, or like the things that you want to accomplish in life, you almost feel like, well, what does it matter? The things that I want to do aren't as important because so and so, whether it be, your husband, wife, or whoever it is, significant other, they're trying to work on this thing, and then they kind of accuse me of not being supportive because I'm not supporting the thing that they're doing, and I'm being selfish by trying to want to strive for these other things for myself that I know would benefit myself and everyone. But
Right.
they're like, no, you're not really being pro family, and you're not really being, team whoever, because you're just worried about your thing, but look at what I'm doing and you're neglecting me. So what happens there? Because now that person's confidence has been kind of, chopped down to the lowest.
Well,
Because
they're
now they're being made to feel like, you know,
right. Well,
I'm
they're first. They have to. Their tactic, actually, of the narcissist is to first make you feel guilty that
yes,
you're even considering yourself right now at this very important time in life when we're trying to, you know, have our family move in this direction, and I'm going to go for this, and you got to support me in it, and so it can't be about you right now. And if you are thinking that way, then that's pretty selfish of you. So that's they first try to get you to question your own character and your
yes,
own ability to have good reason. And then it's
mm,
like, and if you're not a fighter, most peaceful, peace seeking people aren't fighters, so they're not really quick on their feet a lot of times. They might be more like apt to give in to that simply because, oh, okay, I guess I could do this for a little while. What is it that I have to do? And then
right,
the narcissist might say, well, I've got to be concentrating on my studies, whatever it is that they're going for. I might have to be concentrating on all this. And while I'm doing that, you should be out and about with your friends. You should be here cooking for me and making sure I have all the meals I
right,
need. And,
right.
so now it's like another way to isolate you from the outside and to
Mm,
make you feel guilty for even having a dream. and
Yeah.
then put you on board with their dream. And,
Right.
so it's all, very gradual, but very constant in making sure that they get their ducks in a row with you so that you are on board with their life. And so it's more that they've got to be the center of your life.
Wow. So that could be, and it's not necessarily always the case, but they can have maybe high profile occupations or positions, or maybe they're working towards this office or this team or this promotion, or maybe
Yes.
they're trying to start this business or go for like a professional degree or licensure, which
Yes.
makes a little bit more time.
Right.
So their thing is, you're not being a good support if you're not allowing me to fully concentrate on this so that I can attain this thing. And
Yeah.
you need to kind of fall in line. And
And
when
take
that
care of everything and take care of everything. So if there's
take care of
children, you
everything.
should be taking care of the kids and everything that they need. I should not have to change a diaper. I should not have to do a thing. So
Right.
it's like making sure that that person basically is doing everything so that all they have to do is focus on what it is that they're working toward, and making their spouse feel guilty if their spouse does happen to have something else on the agenda that they would like to do. Like it could be on a weekend, she's invited to a baby shower. So she wants
Right.
to go to a baby shower and he wants to be studying. And so it's like, no, that's so selfish of you to think you could actually go to a baby shower when I'm doing this for our family. So it's like always
Right.
like to throw in the viewpoint that you're being selfish for wanting to do something that's other than centered around him.
So when you're constantly being told that you're being selfish, you're not thinking of the family, you're not putting us first, that can make the person almost feel like, well, oh my gosh, I really shouldn't be thinking of anything for myself. I
Right.
mean, I really need to be always focusing on them and making sure they have everything they need, making sure kids have everything they need. And I don't really need to be focusing on anything that I need at all.
Exactly. Exactly. And then they feel guilty because they're made to feel guilty if they do focus on anything for themselves. So, it's a sad thing because then they start to feel guilty taking care of themselves.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah. And so,
Ooh.
yeah.
We need to touch on that, because when you say guilty taking care of yourselves, that could even mean your health, because
Yeah.
it can come to a place where you're even neglecting your own health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You could be having things going on with you, not only because all the stress that person's putting on you, but maybe there are things that are already in motion that are in the family bloodline or genetically or whatever, or maybe things that you're doing because you're trying to cope, maybe overeating, drinking, or whatever, picking up some bad habits that you're doing that's destroying your body. And now you need to be tending to your own health needs, and you're not doing it. And obviously the mental and emotional components of
Right.
that is being neglected. So
Right.
you more than likely need to see a therapist, and you're not even doing that
Yes.
because you're worried about taking away that hour for therapy, because that's going to take away from them.
Yes. Yes.
So speak on, you've been in this, in this for a long time, and you've seen couples and different things that's happened to different individuals. What is one of the things that you've seen, kind of like stuff that has actually happened to a person where health wise they've just kind of neglected themselves while they were in this relationship with a narcissist, and what was the consequence?
Sure. And not all people that are in a relationship with a narcissist choose to leave.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's a financial children type of a situation, so they don't choose to leave, but they know it's toxic for them.
Yeah.
I'll just use one example. She stayed with him after, well, he was trying to accomplish something big with his career. So she was
Mm-hmm.
very supportive, very good. An emotional affair happened. She caught him, and then he was apologetic, and he said, that would never happen again. It was so stupid, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a covert narcissist. So there's some overt narcissists, and then covert's more, I
Yes.
call them the undercover. Covert,
Yes.
they're a
Yeah.
little undercover. So it's like you would have maybe just distinguished them from somebody else,
Mhm.
very easily. You might look at them and think they're pretty normal, but some of their
Yeah.
things are a little bit they resort to the more overt narcissism when they're in trouble.
Ah,
So,
yeah,
so like blaming, blame shifting, that kind of thing.
yes,
So then, while he's still building his career and doing very well by and buying all kinds of toys for himself,
of course.
then then the full blown affair comes out right around 2 years into it. He
Yeah,
finds out about it, and it started right after the emotional affair. So it's like he never did stop. He always
of course
was.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, then it's the blaming, blame shifting.
Hmm.
You didn't do this enough. You didn't do that enough for me.
Yeah,
That.
heard that one. Yeah.
So then going on, then, her more concerned then for her children than for
Right.
herself, feeling badly about even thinking about divorce, because that's really a selfish thing to choose, right? For the
Right.
person that's been beat down enough, right? And
Yeah.
so then not knowing what to do, staying in it, dealing with the pain, though, the images in her mind about, all the things he's done,
Mm.
and just trying to heal over that. Um, she's in pretty bad health. And, this has been 5 years of, her trauma that she's gone through. And it's repeated trauma because she continues to ruminate over it and not able
Yes.
to, because she doesn't trust it. If she knew that this was a person that was sorry and didn't blame her, then she
Right.
feels some sense of, okay, well, maybe it's never going to happen again. But there's no
Right.
security, right? So, and
Right.
it's just when's that other shoe going to drop? And
Mm.
so that's the hard thing in this kind of a situation. So, what do you do? How do you help someone like that? Well, you can't tell someone to get a divorce, and in this case, I wouldn't, because there's children, but I would say separation. There should be a separation. He's succeeded enough in his business that he can afford another place, and he should get himself an apartment, and she should keep the big house, because
Right.
that's the way I look at it. But
Oh yeah, yeah. If you want to ruin the marriage, you get the apartment and live outside the home. That's how I
right,
look at it too.
right.
Yeah.
But and of course you can't tell somebody to do that. And my concern for her, because she of the personality that she has and her passiveness, is she would leave with the kids and go to her apartment and let him have the big house. So
Right.
that's the thing about that, where you need to, love yourself enough not to settle, and love your kids enough not to settle for taking um, the brunt of the choices that he's
Yeah.
making.
And I think you
And in
lose.
some cases, it's
Yeah.
the female, it's the narcissist. So
Right. Yes. Yeah. And we always want to make sure we're putting that out there. It's not always the male. There's
right,
female narcissists. Sometimes they can be worse than the male ones. And
yes, especially
um
they usually are. So,
and they usually are, right.
yeah,
Yeah. And the thing is, just want to kind of put it out there is that, I'm not a legal person, not a lawyer, or anything. I'm not, this is not legal advice, but sometimes you kind of lose certain rights when you do move out of the marital home, or
yeah,
you do move out and you're taking your kids. So it's always something to think about. Like, I know when you're going through a high pressure, like this is a very tough situation, but you don't want to be making decisions out of emotions and moving wrong and making bad decisions. We talked about a multitude of counsel before. Make sure you're running these questions by people that are sound individuals that can actually speak, sensibly, and that can help you in a way where you're not making wrong moves or acting out of emotion and anger and pain and hurt, and that you're not hurting yourself and the children in the process. So
right,
that is definitely something. And that gaslighting will get you to the point where you even question your ability to be able to think clearly, make decisions, and you may end up doing something that is out of character because of the gaslighting that has affected you so badly. So,
mhm,
and one of the things that you mentioned that you talked about is that like, let's say they'll condemn you for not being there, for not being supportive, for not helping.
mhm,
And even in times when you want to do something for yourself. So let's say even if you found a little something, maybe there's something going on at this kid's school with the PTA. Maybe they want to nominate you to be the head of that, or it could be anything,
right.
small business, something's going on, and you want to do that. What ends up happening when you have a little courage to maybe do something like that, and maybe someone's nominated you and you want to accept it, or you want to do it, or maybe you're in the process of doing it, what are some of the things that that narcissist will do to gaslight you when you're either in that position or attempting to get it? What are some of the things that indications that you can look out for to see that, yeah, they're not going to be happy about this, and they're going to do everything they can to stop you?
Yeah. Well, what they'll do at that point is how, how do you expect to actually be the president of the PTA when I mean, look at the house. It's always a mess. Look at that.
Mm,
You're not even capable to take care of the stuff that we have here. How are you going to do that over there? And
right,
now our house looks like this. Forget it. When you're the president of the PTA, it's going to look worse. And that usually winds up also where narcissistic rage comes out though too, because they
mm,
want to be in control of you, and
yeah,
you just took control of your life. You made a decision to be the president of the PTA, and
right,
they're not happy about it because now that takes attention off of them and it has to be placed on something else that's important, right? And
right,
so that's also for them uh an insult too, because I'm supposed to be so important that nothing else
right.
takes your attention. So you just wounded me because you're telling
Mm,
me that something else might be more important than me because you're giving something else your time. So, a lot of times narcissists will be mad and angry when a newborn baby comes into the house because that baby now takes more attention. So it's, this you're wounding them over and over again because
mm,
they're not getting the attention. And what is that? That's the attention that they didn't get as children in some cases. A lot of it is
yeah,
neglect and abandonment that they're suffering from. And so then they wind up with you and you choose to do something that's not centered around them. They're,
wow.
they're feeling a wound, which is not a valid wound because people should be able
Mm,
to, become presidents of PTAs, right?
yeah,
But
or start a small business or whatever they are
whatever it
desire
might be.
to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, of course. And they should be able to
yeah.
have a baby, right? And so,
Yeah. I see what you're saying now, because you being pregnant was maybe cool because you got a lot of attention and it made him look good, and it made, you know what I mean? And it was fun for that little bit of time because, oh, wow, everyone's talking about us, everyone's looking at us. But now when the baby's actually here and it's time to take care of the baby, they're looking at that baby like, oh, like that thing, like,
right,
why is that taking up so much of your time? You're neglecting me. Where am I at?
right.
And sometimes you even find that some men step out on their wives. It
Oh,
could
yeah.
happen while they're pregnant or right after, when you
Yes,
have
yes.
the infant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because they deserve somebody that looks more put together.
right.
When you're pregnant, most women don't feel very attractive, and it's not helpful to have a narcissistic husband that makes you feel less attractive.
It's like, yeah, for them, it's like they look at you and it's almost like, they kind of get disgusted, and it's a little strange because it's their own child that you're carrying, but for
Exactly.
some reason they have this disdain towards even looking at you. And what is it? What and I mean, it's so hard because that's a really, you're already overweight because you're pregnant and you're having a baby, and maybe you just had one, so your body's not in the best of shape, and it takes a while to bounce back. That can affect your confidence, right? That changes a lot.
Without a
What
narcissist, that happens.
and yeah, with the nurse, right? So what can a person do? Because this is something like your body's not going to change overnight. And
Mhm.
nobody's going to recommend any type of surgery. I mean, at least I would hope not, right after just having a baby, to kind of get your body back because you're so worried about them.
Yeah.
What can they do? Because their mind is so like messed up or whatever. And maybe the person didn't have a baby. Maybe they went through an injury or had an accident, had something where they had to have surgery. And maybe they're not as mobile, not able to exercise as much. And maybe they're kind of gaining weight and put on a few pounds. There are different reasons why people cannot look and be the same way how they were before,
Right.
a certain event. What can you help them to see, or if they're going through this,
hmm
to
Well,
speak to that?
I think it definitely comes down to self-love, being able to love yourself enough and accept yourself no matter what you look like. Women, because of media, we have a hard
Yeah.
time
Oh,
with,
yeah.
appearance and comparison and all of that.
Hmm.
I think that there's a lot more out there, though, helping women to accept themselves as they are. And I
Yeah.
even see a lot more models now that are more, realistic and, you know,
Yes, I love that.
yes, yes. And so we're all different shapes and sizes. And, but of course, even if you have a healthy opinion of how you look and a feeling about how you look, you could still have a narcissist for a spouse that makes you feel like you are not worth it. So you're
Mm.
not going to be able to control anything that they do. You can only control yourself, right? So,
Yes.
and of course, asking the Lord to give you the right perspective on your own image, your own self image, and you're created in the image of God. So, being able to just accept yourself as you are. And yeah, there are things that we should do health wise to take care of ourselves. But if we're doing everything we can and some of the pounds don't come off,
Yeah.
just have to accept it that that's maybe, just your metabolism or whatever it is and still love
Hmm.
yourself. But you're not gonna be able to get the narcissist on board with that because they don't love
Yeah.
anybody. They don't know how to do that. So that's hard to change that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that can be a wake up call for you. Like if you weren't really getting the clues before, that should be a pretty good wake up call for you if it hasn't been. And maybe you need to start reevaluating, seeking some counsel about some things, asking some questions about what you need to do moving forward. And what about we got to touch on this because it happens to all of us if we're blessed enough when you start to age and the narcissist does not look at you the same anymore, because it's one thing if you have a body change because of weight, whatever, things happen,
Mm-hmm.
but the aging process is inevitable. It's going to
Yes,
happen to all of us. And
yes, yes.
when you get to that point where you're not a spring chicken anymore and you're getting older and your body is kind of conforming to that age and whatever it is, what do you say to those people, men and women, or whoever it is that's being affected in that way? Because I feel like people don't talk about that enough
Yeah.
and what that person needs to do when they're dealing with a narcissist and what they need to look out for, maybe things to do to protect themselves.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, if the narcissist is looking in other, avenues because of the fact that they're discouraged with the way that you look, then you're not going to be able to change what they are calculating in their mind to do either. But I think that, accepting ourselves, accepting the fact that these bodies do break down and they
Yeah,
do change and we get wrinkles and gravity takes over and all the fun
yeah,
things about aging, right?
yeah,
So, you have to learn to accept yourself as you are, and God already does. And,
yes.
if, you're with a narcissist and that narcissist decides to, cast you aside because you're not young enough anymore, and that does happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Just trusting that the Lord's going to take care of you no matter what
Mm,
happens. You really, we cannot control the choices that other people make that affects our lives.
right.
But we can trust that God will go through everything and anything that comes our way. He'll go through it with us. Doesn't mean he's going to keep us from it because,
Right.
we all have free will, and our spouses, our, significant others, they have a will of their own. And if they so choose to do things that would hurt us, God is still there. And God's not happy about it, but he is going to take care of his children. So, um, I've never seen his children begging for bread. I always think about that when
That's
people,
right.
get fearful and they talk to me about, some problems similar to what we're talking about. I just say, well, God is going to take care of you. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I do know
Right.
he's faithful. And so those are the things that you just have to, remind yourself of. And so that's the self-talk that you want to have, good self-talk. What is good self-talk to me? It's speaking
Yes.
God's word over yourself. That's the healthy talk that you want to be
Right.
listening to. The enemy wants you to hear what the narcissist says, right? You're no
Right.
good, you're fat, you're old, you're whatever. The words
Hmm.
are that, are used, and all of those are used. the Lord would say, no, that's a lie from the enemy. You are my beautiful
Right.
daughter, you're my beautiful son, and I love you, and I'm going to take care of you. And even though they are going in that direction, I am going in this direction with you. And so that's what we've got to hear. We've got to hear, what is it that the Lord says to me at this time?
Yes. What is it that the Lord is saying? And I had a really, cool. I don't know. It's like now that we're talking about this, it becomes relevant. I was talking to a guy when I was working, and he was mentioning how he was engaged and he had a fiance, and I was like, wow, because I knew his age. He told me what his age was. He was 75, and the wife was like, somewhere in her 60s or something. And I said to myself, wow, this should be give someone hope. You know what I mean? Because sometimes people stick in things and they stay in relationships because they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so old. Who's going to want me? Nothing's ever going to, come to pass. I'll never get married again, or there's no chance. And I don't want you to lose out on prime and beautiful years of your life because you're thinking and making an assumption that no one's ever going to want you, or that who's going to want me at this age, or who's going to think that I'm worthy of marriage again. No matter how old you are, right? So I saw that, and I know of another couple that I can think of that, after one had I think they both had a widowed spouse, and they got together
Okay.
later years in life. So it is possible. But one of the things that I think that I want you to speak on, before we wrap up, is not that you can avoid it, but if you see a trend or a pattern of something over time, and it doesn't look like it's getting better, and the person's not changing, they're not either willing for therapy, or if they do therapy, it's not doing anything and they're still resorting back to their old ways, there is a chance, and I want you to speak to this, that when it's all said and done and you stick around and you try to stick it out, they can still end up dropping you and finding somebody younger, or moving on with their life, even though you felt like this was my calling and I was doing my part and doing what I need to do to keep the marriage together. And they can still decide they're going to toss you, or discard you. That's the word I'm looking for. They're
Right.
going to discard you anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
then at the end of the day, you have to look at, why did I really stay and invest all that time into something that it ended up? We don't know the future, but
Right.
I'm just saying what has I've seen happen in different things, where you can't hold on that long and think, I'm going to do this because I'm meant to be there. And that person could just, hey, I got this
Yeah.
young thing that is ready to take me on, and you are now old news, and bye.
Yeah.
Thanks for the investment of all those years you stuck around while I emotionally abused you, but now I'm moving on. So I want you to speak to that, because I'm feeling something in my spirit and in my heart that maybe somebody is holding on to something that is. I feel like God gives you winks and lets you know when you're kind of over. You know what I say? I call it like overstaying your welcome, and maybe you're past the season where something has expired, like that expired milk. You don't drink it past its expiration date.
Right.
You don't keep around something that's already dead and gone. We're not telling anyone what to do, but I want you to give some encouragement and hope, and maybe some things they need to be checking, looking
Mm-hmm.
at, evaluating, and considering before
Mm-hmm.
they kind of make this investment in time that they'll never get back into
Mm-hmm.
something that may already be dead.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that I'm thinking of some specific situations that I worked with couples,
Mhm.
and that scenario though, where the spouse has maybe a roaming eye, and there's lots of signs
Yeah.
and lots of little inappropriate texts maybe, and little things here and there.
Hmm.
You've got to find out how serious they are about the marriage, and the way that that would be done is, if that continues to happen, that
Hmm.
behavior, I would say definitely go for a separation, because what the separation will do is it'll show you whether or not this person is really serious about the marriage. If they, I don't want to say you have to be chaste, but if they pursue you enough to try to fix it, then you know that their heart is still in the marriage and
Hmm.
that they're sorrowful. But, and if we're dealing with a narcissist that is cheating, then that's probably not going to happen. You're going to have a separation that's eventually going to become a divorce, because then they're going to do what they're going to
Right.
do. But better
Right.
to know now than to know 10 years down the road, because if they're with you and you're fine being with them, they look good in the kids' eyes. So,
Yeah.
don't know anything, right? And then, you're willing to continue to be with them. Well, you don't know if that other person's willing to continue to be with him, and that might be his mistress, or
Right.
her man that she's hanging out with while you're wondering where she is.
Right.
So that kind of thing does happen, and sometimes it's in these marriages that have gone 30 years, and she's put up with this behavior for all those years, and so have the children.
Mm-hmm.
Now finally, it's coming out that there's been infidelity over infidelity, but never anything that actually was concrete that they could,
Right.
say was happening. So it's hard to say, though, like in the case where there's no evidence of that, you
Right.
really, it's hearsay, right? You can't really
Yeah.
do anything about it. In God's eyes, I think if he's mistreating you and abusing you, that's enough to call separation.
Right.
If there's
Right.
a narcissist in the house and he's treating you terribly, there's no reason, whether he's being faithful or not, no reason
Right.
to put up with that. That I would separate myself from. But if there's, if it's not a narcissist, if it's just a person, then you don't know, what he's doing, but there's no evidence or anything, and you're just, feeling
Mm-hmm.
insecure, then you just gotta leave that in the Lord's hands and pray. If there is something, just reveal it to me, Lord, so that I'm not in the
Yes.
dark about it. You know?
Yeah. You don't want to be in it so long. And I say that, and it's funny how we're having this conversation and things just come to my mind. I remember a group, we have a group of ladies, we hang out and connect, and we had someone that we were in, prayer for, because she was going through a divorce. But guess what? She wasn't just going through a divorce. She was going through a divorce, and she had to have been in, I don't know if it was 80, late 70s. It was up there. It was up there. She was up there in age. And I kept saying to myself, what could have happened at that age where, he would decide to divorce her then? But then my mind went a different way, and I thought, what was she putting up with for all that time up until 80? And then he decides, or late 70s, whatever she was, and then he decides, I'm done, I'm moving on. This bout almost destroyed her. Like it literally almost destroyed her, because you're in your last years. You're with this marriage that you thought you were going to have for life, and now you're going through a divorce that up there in your age.
Mhm.
So that's why I think maybe that's why that's pulling at me right now. And maybe there's someone watching. And like I said, always comment, share. We want to hear from you,
Yes.
because these things are serious, these things are real, and these are things that people don't talk about, because maybe it's not the most popular conversation, but it needs to be had, because there are people living in situations that is not, it's killing their soul. It's eating away at them little by little, and they're staying, and um we don't tell you one way or the other, but this thing is literally destroying you, and it's tearing you apart. And to know that someone at that age was going through that process. I know what it was like going through it at, my age, and I was much younger than what she was. And I know what that did to me. So I'm
Mhm.
like, all the emotions or the thoughts, what am I going to do? This, that, the emotional and mental and physical strain and what it does to your body. I'm like, man, that thing could literally take her out of here if she's not careful,
Yeah.
because of how much what a divorce takes out of you.
Yeah. I mean, like I said before, we can't control other people's behavior, right? And
Mhm.
so I think that trusting whatever God has for their future, because really the one who holds their future is the Lord. It's not
That's the,
this ex that they're worried about. It's the Lord that's got their future. And so, yeah, I mean, we do live in a world where we can't control other people's behaviors, and unfortunately, people make choices that can be so heartbreaking and so unfair. But and sometimes I think some of these choices are made also because the person is 80 and they're losing their mind. and so in some cases. And so, you know, trying to just make sure that that person has friends, people that are support
Yeah.
system for them, so that they don't become lonely and so depressed, because it is going to be a depressing thing. If she's been with this man for a long time, it's going to be a
Yeah.
depressing thing. And so it's hard to do life after so many years with someone and try to figure out what that's going to look like now by myself. But you're not by yourself. You've got the Lord,
Not by
and
yourself.
He has a plan for you. He has a plan to prosper you. So you just have to always go back to the Word. Jeremiah
Yeah.
29:11. I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, for a future. And so just lean on the promises of God when you're in any kind of situation in life that's trying and difficult, but especially when you're feeling alone and lonely because somebody has
Yeah.
walked out, just now you've got to, really lean in more to the Lord. And it's
Yeah.
those times when people that I've worked with will go through difficult things like that. And that when they get, there's never really an end to it. They still always is something bitter of the
Yes.
past, right? But
Yeah.
but they get through the really hard parts of it. On
Yeah.
the other side of it, they'll say, yeah, it was the worst thing I've ever been through, but it's the one thing that made me so close to the Lord. And so,
Mm.
I just really suggest that people, when they're going through a hard time, just lean in more with the Lord, read the word, pray, find a group of people that you can pray with,
Yes.
join a Bible study, do whatever it takes to fill your time up now with
Hmm.
things that are going to encourage you spiritually, because it's your spirit first that you need to feed now.
Yes.
And little by little you will start to feel hopeful and strong again. And you just don't want the enemy to steal your joy, and the enemy's behind all that stuff you talked about.
Yes. He's behind all of it. He's the culprit, really. He
Yes,
really
he
is.
wants to destroy all of us. And so what we want to do is we want to not give in to that. We want to allow the Lord to bring peace back to our hearts and bring joy back. And it takes time. It takes time with the Lord to be able to heal over things like that. And surround yourself with people that love you and care for you. And yeah, it's sad though when things like that happen, because that person that you grow in life with is supposed to be that person that you grow old with until death do us
Yeah.
part. And it shouldn't end the way that you shared there. But unfortunately, some people are selfish and make choices that are very damaging.
That's right. And whether you're 20 or 80, you find yourself, being left or, just discarded, just know that you can rebuild again. And I know some spouses, they didn't take care of any type of finances, so maybe they're not savvy in that area or they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
There are people that can teach you that. There are groups. There's YouTube. I mean, there's so many resources and tools and groups and churches. And the key is not to be isolated, right?
Yes.
There is power in that connection and getting connected with people, and that was probably the problem all along, was that you were so isolated that it kept you from seeing a lot of things and people speaking into your life to help reveal things that were pretty obvious.
Yes. And I'll leave you
So
with
yeah.
this. I'll leave you with this thought.
Yes. Yeah.
It's the relationship that wounded you.
Mm.
It's going to be in relationships that you're going to be healed. So
Ooh.
your relationship with the Lord first, and
Yes.
then your relationship with other human beings, you're
Yes.
going to receive healing. So don't isolate. Stay close to the
Mhm.
Lord, stay close to other people, and let that be where you find healing.
And where you get your confidence back.
Exactly.
That's where you'll
Exactly.
get your confidence back. Well, this has been great, Karen. Oh my gosh, I hope this was so helpful to you. Remember to share this out. Don't keep this to yourself, because we are trying to help people. We are trying to free people. We are trying to bring awareness. So if you know this will be helpful to someone, don't hesitate to share this. Don't let it end with you. Remember, be a river, not a reservoir. We love when people come and share what they've learned from us, give us, feedback, whether it's questions or just like, wow, you really helped me in this area. We want to hear about it. So don't ever hesitate to reach out. Remember, like this, share this, and put your comments and feedback. We want to hear from you. And once again, my name is Tyler King, my co-host Karen Maldonado, and this is Narcissist. I'm Asking for a Friend podcast. And we'll see you on the next episode.